Assalamualaikum, welcome, hello. I'm Yousha Gopang, final year student of Department of Computer Science at Sindh University campus Larkana. Today I'm going to talk about compiler construction. So, overview of my presentation is introduction to compiler construction, common language translator, phases of compiler, types of bugs and errors. So, first of all, introduction to compiler construction. So, what do you mean by compiler construction? Compiler construction is an area of computer science that deals with the theory and practice of developing programming language and their associated compiler. The theoretical portion is called primary concern with syntax and semantic of programming languages. So, what is compiler? A compiler is a computer program that translates computer code written in one language and it translates into another language. The name compiler is primarily used for programs that translate source code from high language programming language to low level programming language to create executable program. So after that, common language translator. What is common language translator? There are three types of common language translator. Number one, compiler, number two, interpreter, and number three is assembler. So, what is difference between these three compilers? Number one, compiler. Compiler translates high language into the low level language, machine language. It translates all code at the same time, will only perform in the first errors if it finds, and it is used by C language and C++ and C#. So what is interpreter? Interpreter translates high language into machine level language, into low level machine language, and it also translates source, but it only translates one line at a time. In the compiler translates all the code at a time. So interpreter returns its list of errors and on which line it finds the errors. So interpreter used by the language Python and PHP. So these languages use interpreter. And what is assembler? Assembler is a compiler which is used for only assembly language. It translates assembly language into the machine language, into low level language, and assembler generally does not convert complete code at one time because it is depend on the CPU. CPU controls the assembler, and it is only used by assembly language. No any other language use the assembler. It is only used by the assembly language. So it is the situation. Then phases of compiler. What are the phases of compiler? The compilation process is a sequence of various phases. Each phase takes input from its previous stage. Means when we are writing any code in any language and we want to take any output, so the code will be put in the phases of compiler to get the execution, to get the output. So the compilation process is sequence of various phases. Each phase takes input from its previous stage, has its own representation of source code. Means these phases translates, these phases converts the code into other phases and other phase and other language. So and it feeds its output to the next phase of the compiler. So these are the phases of compiler. Number one, it is lexical analyzer, which is the first phase of scanner. Works as a text scanner. It scans the text. This phase scans the source code as a stream of characters and converts it to make meaningful lexemes. For example, I am writing any code. So the lexical analysis, what it will do, it will make the tokens. It will describe the code. We have to execute this code and we need output of this code. So lexemes will make the tokens of data types, of methods, of classes, and so that's how the lexical analysis works. So then there is syntax analyzer. What is syntax analyzer? What is the work of syntax analyzer? Syntax analyzer is called parsing. It also makes a parser tree. It takes the token produced by lexical analysis as input and generates a parse tree. It generates a parse tree. In this phase, token arrangements are checked against the source code, and the parse checks if the expression made by the token is syntaxically correct. So it checks the syntax. If the code is syntaxically correct, and it can be executed, or it will give us the errors. So after that there is semantic analysis. What is the work of semantic analysis? Semantic analysis checks what the parse tree constructed follows the rules of the language. If, for example, in syntax analysis it makes a parse tree, so the semantic analysis will check if the tree is correct, if it's following the rules, or it is not on the rules. So it will give us errors or etc. So semantic analysis checks that. The semantic analysis produce an annotated syntax tree as an output. So it gives us output of a tree which is true or false. Or it will give us any errors, or it will not give us errors. So it will give us a parse tree. So after that there is intermediate code generator. What is intermediate code generator? After semantic analysis, the compiler generates an intermediate code of the source code for the target. It is between the high level language and machine language. So what is the work of compiler? The main work of compiler is to convert the high language code into machine language. So in intermediate code generator, our execution or output or input of the program is in the middle. So the source code for the target machine, it is between the high language and machine language. So it is in the middle of these two languages. So this intermediate code should be generated in such a way that it makes it easier to be translated into the target machine language. So it makes it easier, makes it very much easier to convert the high language into the machine level language, low level language. So after that there is code generator. No, it's code optimization. So what is the work of code optimization? The next phase does not optimize of the intermediate code. So optimizing can be assumed as something that removes necessary code lines. For example, I am writing a program, so I have in a lot of lines of code. So what code optimization will do, it will only take the main lines which can be executed, but it will remove the extra lines which are holding the program for the software. So it will remove the other lines of code, and it will only pass the main lines which are needed, which has to be translated. So it will remove unnecessary codes of line T and arranges the sequence of statement in order to speed up the program execution without wasting resources like CPU and memory. So it put the data, it put the lines of code in the ascending way to execute it very easily and without wasting our resources. So after that there is code generation. What is code generation? This phase, the code generator takes the optimized representation of the intermediate code and maps it to the target machine language. The code generator translates the intermediate code into a sequence of relocatable machine language. So sequence of instruction of machine code performs the task as the intermediate code would do. So after that there is sample code, sample table. Yes, sample table. Machine is code optimizer. Yes, code optimizer machine department or the sample table are the same things. So it is a data structure machine maintained throughout all the phases of a compiler. All the identifiers, names along with their types and are stored there. The symbol table make it easier for the compiler to quickly search the identifier, record and retrieve it. The symbol table is also used for scope management. So after symbol table we get the target code, means our output, the machine language code. We often target code we get the machine language code, means these steps converts the whole code, so from high level language code to the low language code. So after phases of compiler I am going to talk about types of bugs and errors. So what is error and what is bug? So generally compiler bugs can be categorized into two classes, crashes and miscompilations. So what is crash? When we are writing any code, or after writing any code we want to run the machine, we want to run our software, we want to compile the software. So if our line of code is more and more errored, so it will give us errors and it will be crashed. And if our code is okay but the compiler is out of hands and it is not getting full resources, so it will be miscompilations. And sometimes our code is okay but compiler give us an errors and we do not get the output that we need. So the first class is the compiler to crash during compilation due to either memory errors or internal assertion failures. As I told you, when we do not have the resources, so it crashes. And miscompilation means the failure of compiler, which hinders the software development process. So it is the process of software development. There are three kinds of errors. Number one, syntax error. Number two, runtime error. And number three, logic error. So these errors where the compiler finds something wrong with your program and you can't even try to execute. So these three types of errors find our program, and if it has errors we cannot even run our program. So what is syntax errors? The syntax error where the compiler finds something wrong with your program or you can't even try to execute it. Syntax errors are the easiest to find your error and correct. The compiler will tell you where to get into trouble, and its best guess is to what you did wrong. So in syntax errors it gives us the whole information about where we are wrong and where the line of code is getting errors and what we have to fix to run our program. So for example, you may have incorrect punctuations, or maybe trying to use a variable that hasn't been declared, so it gives us errors. When we write a value which is not declared in the back syntaxes, so it gives us errors. So syntax errors means find and tell us the details that you have written this syntax and you have not declared it in back. So after that, what is runtime errors? If there are no syntax errors, Java may detect an error while your program is running. Means when our program is running, Java it still detects the errors. You will get an error message telling you kind of error, and a stack trace that tells you not only where the error occurred but also what other method or methods you are in. Means it will get us to the line, it will get us to the syntax, it will get us to the method that your error is here and you have to fix it, or without means fixing you can't get what you want in the execution. So after that, logic errors. A logic error is when your program compiles and runs but does the wrong thing. Sometimes we run our program and it gives us output, but the output is not what we want. Means misplacement, it's the error of compiler. So the Java system of course has no idea what your program is supposed to do, so it provides no additional information to help you find the error. So it only give us error but do not tell us where the error is. So we have to find our errors ourselves and fix them by ourselves. So that's it. Thanks and Allah Hafiz.